They called the police to have me removed, but the officers ended up taking their side. It was a bold move, a public show of power. She stood on my driveway, on land that had been in my family for generations, and called the cops on me. She thought she had won. What she didn't know was that the piece of paper in my pocket was about to blow up her whole world. I stood on the cracked asphalt of my own driveway, watching the HOA president, Brenda Shaw, dial 911. She looked so sure of herself. She had no idea that the document in my pocket, fresh from the county office, was about to tear down everything she had built. The sun was setting, making the perfect houses of Crestview Glen look like a movie set. This was the final scene. My name is Alex Carter. I am 45 years old. I used to be a lawyer who worked with land and property rules. For the last 2 years, I have been the quiet problem in this perfect-looking neighborhood. Most people retire to relax. I retired to get away from arguing about rules and maps. I thought Crestview Glen, with its quiet streets and view of the lake, would be my peaceful place. I was wrong. It all started with a letter. It wasn't a normal letter. It was a certified letter, the kind you have to sign for. The paper was thick and fancy. It had a gold stamp on it. "Welcome to Crestview Glen," it said. "Your annual dues of $1,500 are now past due." I almost laughed out loud. My house, a cozy cabin I got from my grandfather, was built 30 years before the HOA even existed. The old maps from the county showed their power stopped at a big old oak tree, 50 feet from my front door. I knew I was in the right. I wrote a nice letter back. I was polite. I explained the situation. I thought that would be the end of it. I was making a huge mistake. The HOA president, a woman named Brenda Shaw, did not like being told she was wrong. She saw property lines not as borders, but as something to cross. A week after my letter, I found a note stuck to my front door. It was a violation notice. "Non-compliant mailbox," it said. "Must be replaced with approved model." My grandfather had built that mailbox with his own hands. It was a little rusty, but it worked perfectly. Now, according to them, it was a crime. Then more letters came. Fines for my lawn being too natural. Fines for using wood chips in my garden. Each letter was another attack in a fight I never wanted. They weren't just enforcing rules. They were seeing how far they could push me. I decided to be reasonable. I invited Brenda to my house. I spread out the old land maps on my kitchen table. The paper was yellow and fragile. She looked at them for a second. She gave me a smile that wasn't real. "Those are interesting, Mr. Carter," she said. "But our rules are very clear. Everyone here has to help the community." "I'm not in your community," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I'm just your neighbor." Her fake smile got tight. "We'll see what the board thinks about that," she said. Then she turned and left. The door closed with a quiet click. The silence in the house after she left felt heavier than all the fines put together. The trouble got worse. A car started driving by my house very slowly. Someone inside was taking pictures of my property. My "private property" sign disappeared overnight. I started getting shiny newsletters in the mail. They were full of friendly-sounding reminders that were actually threats. "Remember, we all have to keep up community standards," they said. They were making me look like the bad guy. I was the outsider who didn't want to follow the rules. The neighborhood that once felt calm now felt like a beautiful prison. And I was the only one who wasn't locked up. One night, I saw something new. A sign was bolted into the road at the start of our street. "Private road," it said. "Crestview Glen HOA access only." I felt a cold chill. They had put a sign claiming land that was not theirs. That was the moment everything changed. They had drawn a line in the sand. I knew I had to fight back. That night, I went into my grandfather's old office. The room smelled like old books and wood. I found his old diaries and the maps he drew himself. He had fought with a builder over this land many years ago. I read one line he wrote. His handwriting was strong and clear. "They will try again," he wrote. The writing on the paper might fade, But the land never forgets who it belongs to. That's when I saw it. A light pencil line on a map from 1962. I had looked at this map so many times, but I never saw this line. It showed a thin strip of land called Carter Family Right-of-Way. It wasn't just my house and yard. This line showed that my family also owned the road. The next day, I went to the government office where they keep all the property records. The man working there was old and remembered my grandfather. He typed on his computer and pulled up the files. His eyes got wide. "Well, I'll be," he said softly. "The tax bills for this road, no one has paid them for 8 years. The HOA was supposed to pay these taxes, but it looks like they forgot." He printed out the page for me. There was an official stamp on it. The road, the same pavement Brenda Shaw used to scare me, was going to be sold by the county. They were going to sell it to anyone who would pay the old taxes. A slow, sure smile spread across my face. They had built their little kingdom on someone else's land. And now the real owner was about to take it back. I created a small company called Northwood Holdings. This was to keep my name secret. I went to the tax sale and placed a bid. A man hit a wooden hammer on the table. I had won. For $8,200, I bought the street. The deed, the paper that proved I owned it, felt strong in my hands. It was my shield. I drove home slowly, my tires rolling over the pavement that was now legally mine. I didn't build a fence. I put up small, legal markers in the ground. The fight was over. Now it was just a fact. I was the owner. They didn't notice a thing. Brenda planned a big emergency HOA meeting right there in the street. She wanted to talk about my trespassing and rule breaking. She even asked a reporter from the local paper to come. She wanted to embarrass me in front of everyone. She stood behind a small podium. Her voice was loud and fake. "We are here today because of a serious problem for our neighborhood," she announced. She pointed her finger at me. "This person will not respect our authority." That's when I walked forward. Everyone got quiet. The reporter's camera started to glow. "I'm not under your authority, Brenda," I said. My voice was calm, but everyone could hear it. She laughed a mean laugh. "This is HOA property," she said. "You are standing on our private road." "Really?" I asked. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the most important paper of my life. "Before this goes any further," I said, handing the paper to the police officer who was standing there, "you should check who really owns this land." The officer took the paper. He read it. He looked from the paper to Brenda and then back to me. All the color drained from Brenda's face as she watched him. "Ma'am," the officer said, his voice serious, "this street is owned by Northwood Holdings. You are the one who is trespassing." For a second, there was no sound at all. You could hear the wind in the trees. Then people started to whisper. The reporter started asking Brenda new questions. "How long has the HOA been taking money for a road you don't own? Where did all that money go?" Her world of control fell apart in 1 minute, right there on the road she thought was hers. The police officer told them to stop all HOA activities right away. The meeting was over. The HOA board members walked away quickly, like they were ashamed. I stood alone in the middle of the street as the sun went down. The quiet felt good. I had earned it. What happened next was fast. The county government checked the HOA's money. They found big problems. Money that people paid for road repairs was just gone. Brenda was kicked out and had to pay money for her lies. The HOA was shut down for good. People think justice is always loud. But sometimes, it's just a quiet name signed on a piece of paper. In the weeks after, people who hadn't talked to me in years came to my door. They brought me food. They said they were sorry. They told me they had been scared. I understood. I didn't get mad at the regular people. I only went after the HOA leaders. The money I got wasn't about getting even. I used it to actually fix the road. I put in new, bright lights. I planted new trees. I put up a simple, nice-looking sign. It said, "Neighborhood access, by courtesy of the owner." I didn't put up a gate. I didn't put up a fence. I just told the truth for everyone to see. The neighborhood was finally free. Not free from rules, but free from a lie. Now I often sit on the bench by the lake. My grandfather built that bench. I look out at the street. This isn't about winning a fight anymore. It's about fixing what was broken. It's about a simple, powerful idea. You should never let anyone push you off your own land, especially when you have the papers to prove it's yours. The lines on an old map might get faint, but the truth, once you have it in your hands, lasts forever. If you have ever had someone try to take what is yours, you know how this feels. Your story is important. If you liked this story about standing up for yourself, please hit that like button for Winds of Thought. It really helps us out. And tell us your own HOA stories in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Let me tell you more about what happened. The story is bigger than just that one day. I want to go back to the beginning, to when I first moved in. The cabin was my grandfather's favorite place in the world. He built it with his own 2 hands after he came home from the war. He didn't want anything fancy. He wanted a place that was quiet and real. The walls were made of logs from the trees he cut down on the land. The fireplace was made of stones from the lake. It wasn't a big modern house. It was a home full of memories. When I was a kid, I spent every summer here. My grandfather would teach me about the land. He showed me where the property lines were. He had old metal stakes in the ground to mark the corners. "Always know where your land is, Alex," he would tell me. "It's the one thing nobody can ever take from you if you know the truth." I didn't understand how important that was back then. I was just a kid who wanted to go fishing. When my grandfather got old and passed away, he left the cabin to me. He knew I loved it as much as he did. I was so happy to have it. I quit my job as a lawyer. I was tired of fighting with people in suits. I wanted a simple life. I packed my things and moved to Crestview Glen. At first, it was perfect. I woke up to the sound of birds, not car horns. I drank my coffee on the porch and looked at the lake. I started fixing up the cabin. I painted the shutters. I fixed the steps on the porch. I was happy. Then the first letter came. I thought it was a mistake. I figured someone at the HOA office had the wrong address. I wrote my polite letter back. I was sure that would fix it. But Brenda Shaw did not like my letter. She saw it as a challenge. She was used to people just doing what she said. When I said no, it made her angry. After our meeting in my kitchen, things got weird in the neighborhood. People I had talked to before suddenly stopped waving. The man who lived across the street, Mr. Peterson, used to come over and chat about the weather. After my talk with Brenda, he would look the other way when he saw me. It was like I had a disease that they were afraid of catching. Then the phone calls started. Sometimes, late at night, my phone would ring. When I answered, no one was there. Just silence. Then a click. It happened 3 or 4 times. I knew it was someone from the HOA trying to scare me. It didn't work. It just made me more determined. I decided to start keeping records. I bought a big notebook. Every time something happened, I wrote it down. I wrote down the date and time of the phone calls. I took pictures of the violation notices. When my private property sign was stolen, I filed a report with the real police. The officer who took the report was nice, but he said it was hard to prove who did it. I knew it was the HOA. One day, I saw a man taking pictures of my house from the road. He was in a white car. I walked out to talk to him. He rolled down his window. "Can I help you?" I asked. He smiled a fake smile. "Just the HOA compliance officer," he said, "doing a routine check." "This isn't your property to check," I told him. He just shrugged and drove away. I wrote down his license plate number in my notebook. His name was Greg. He was Brenda's brother-in-law. The pressure kept building. I got a letter from the HOA's lawyer. It was a scary letter full of big words. It said I had to pay all the fines or they would put a lien on my house. A lien is a legal paper that makes it hard to sell your house. It said they could even take my house away if I didn't pay. I wasn't scared because I knew they were wrong. But I knew most people would be terrified by a letter like that. That was their plan. To scare me into giving up. The day I found the sign bolted into the road was the last straw. I came home from getting groceries and there it was. A big, new sign. Private road. Crestview Glen HOA access only. They had drilled holes in the pavement that I would later learn was mine. They were so sure of themselves. They thought they owned everything. That's when I knew I had to find a way to prove it, once and for all. That night in my grandfather's office was like something from a movie. I was feeling lost. I didn't know what to do next. I sat in his old wooden chair. I looked at the pictures on the wall. There was a photo of him standing right where the new sign was, smiling. I opened one of his journals. His words jumped out at me. They will try again. The ink fades, but the land remembers. It was like he was talking directly to me right then. He knew this would happen one day. I started looking at his maps more carefully. I had a big desk lamp. I turned it on and held the map close. That's when I saw the pencil line. It was so faint I almost missed it. It went along the edge of the road. And there were the words, written in my grandfather's handwriting, Carter Family Right-of-Way. My heart started beating fast. A right-of-way is a legal right to use a path or road across land that belongs to someone else. But if you own the right-of-way itself, that means you own the land under the road. I couldn't believe it. All this time, I owned the street. The next morning, I went to the county records office. I was nervous. What if I was wrong? What if the maps were just my grandfather's wishful thinking? The man at the counter, Mr. Dale, was very old. He moved slowly. I'm looking for records for parcel number 7-4-3-0, I said. That was the number on my grandfather's map for the right-of-way. Mr. Dale typed on his computer. He squinted at the screen. That's an old one, he said. Belongs to the Carter estate. Then he frowned. That's odd. What's odd? I asked. The taxes, he said. They haven't been paid on this parcel in years. The HOA was sent the bills, but they never paid. This land is scheduled for the tax auction next month. I felt a huge wave of relief. I was right. Not only was I right, but the HOA had also made a giant mistake. They had forgotten to pay the taxes on the road. By not paying, they had lost any claim to it. The county was going to sell it, and I was going to buy it. The tax auction was held in a big room at the courthouse. There were only a few people there. Most were looking to buy empty lots. When they called the number for my road, my heart was pounding. I had formed a company called Northwood Holdings so no one would know it was me. The man running the auction said, "Do I have a bid for parcel 7-4-3-0? Someone bid $5,000. I waited. Another person bid $6,000. Then I raised my paddle. $7,000, I said. The room was quiet. Going once, going twice, sold to Northwood Holdings for $7,000. The man hit the table with his hammer. It was over. I owned the road. Walking out of that courthouse with the deed in my hand was one of the best feelings of my life. It was just a piece of paper, but it meant everything. It was justice. It was proof. I got in my truck and drove back to Crestview Glen. As I turned onto my street, I drove slowly. I looked at every house. I looked at the perfect lawns and the matching mailboxes. None of them knew that the ground under their feet, the road they drove on every day, now belonged to me. I didn't do anything to show off. I didn't tell anyone. I just waited. I knew Brenda would make her move soon. And she did. A week later, flyers were in everyone's mailbox. Emergency HOA meeting. This Saturday. Protect our neighborhood. I smiled. The trap was set. The day of the meeting was sunny and warm. People set up folding chairs in the cul-de-sac. Brenda had a small microphone. Greg, her brother-in-law, was standing nearby with his arms crossed, looking tough. He was wearing sunglasses. I saw the reporter, a young woman with a notebook. Brenda started her speech. She talked about community and rules and safety. She made it sound like I was a dangerous criminal. Then she pointed at me. "This man refuses to follow our rules," she shouted. That's when I walked into the middle of the circle. All eyes were on me. I was calm. I had my deed in my jacket pocket. I told Brenda I wasn't under her authority. She laughed and said I was standing on her private road. I asked her if she was sure. Then I pulled out the deed and gave it to the police officer. The moment the officer read it, you could feel the whole crowd hold its breath. When he told Brenda she was the one trespassing, her face turned white. She looked like she had seen a ghost. The sounds after that were chaos. People were talking all at once. The reporter was asking Brenda questions she couldn't answer. Where did the road maintenance money go? Did you know you didn't own this land? Brenda had no answers. She just stood there, stunned. The meeting broke up. People left, shaking their heads. Brenda and Greg quickly packed up their things and left without looking at anyone. I stood in the street for a long time after everyone was gone. The sun was going down. The streetlights came on. For the first time since I moved in, the neighborhood was truly quiet. It was a good quiet. A peaceful quiet. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The story was in the local newspaper. The headline was, "Homeowner buys street out from under HOA." Everyone was talking about it. The county started an investigation into the HOA's finances. They discovered that over $60,000 was missing. Money that people had paid for taking care of the neighborhood was just gone. Brenda was forced to resign. She and the other board members had to pay big fines. The HOA was shut down forever. My neighbors were embarrassed. They started coming over to apologize. They brought cakes and pies. They said they were sorry for ignoring me. They said they were afraid of Brenda. I told them it was okay. I understood. Fear is a powerful thing. I used the money from the legal settlement to fix the road for Rail. I hired a company to put down new, smooth asphalt. I had new streetlights installed. I planted young trees along the curb. Then I put up my sign, "Neighborhood Access, by courtesy of the owner." I wanted people to know that they were welcome. This was still their neighborhood, but it was free now. Now my life is quiet again. I sit on my grandfather's bench by the lake. I watch the kids ride their bikes on the smooth new road. I see my neighbors and we wave. Sometimes they stop to talk. The neighborhood feels like a real community now, not a prison. This whole experience taught me an important lesson. It's not about fighting. It's about knowing the truth and not being afraid to stand up for it. Bullies only have power if you give it to them. If you have the facts on your side, you can win. You just have to be brave enough to see it through. My grandfather was right all along. The land remembers. And now, everyone else remembers too. If this story about standing your ground meant something to you, please press the like button for Winds of Thought. It helps more than you know. And we would love to hear from you. What is the craziest HOA rule you have ever heard of? Share your story in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for listening. Let me tell you more about the small things that happened. The details that made the big moments matter. Like the first time I saw Brenda Shaw before I even knew her name. It was a week after I moved in. I was pulling weeds in the front yard. A silver car drove by very slowly. The woman driving it stared at me. She didn't smile or wave. She just looked. Her face was serious. I thought maybe she was just curious about her new neighbor. Now I know she was already sizing me up. She was already deciding if I was going to be a problem. Another small thing was the sound of the crickets at night. Before the trouble started, the sound of crickets was peaceful. It was the sound of summer. After the letters and the phone calls started, the sound of crickets made me feel lonely. It was a reminder that I was alone out here, that everyone else was in their perfect houses, and I was the outsider. I remember the feel of the old maps. The paper was brittle and felt like it could tear if I wasn't careful. My grandfather's handwriting was so precise. He drew every line with a ruler. He wrote every number with care. He knew that these maps were important. He knew they told a story. The story of our land. The day I went to the county office, I was so nervous. My hands were sweaty. I worried that Mr. Dale would tell me I was wrong. I worried that my grandfather's maps were just old drawings with no legal power. When Mr. Dale looked at his computer and his eyes got wide, I felt a jolt of electricity go through me. That was the moment I knew I had a chance. The tax auction was boring until my lot came up. The room was stuffy and warm. A fan in the corner was buzzing. Most people there were professional investors. They talked in low voices about properties I had never heard of. When the auctioneer called my number, his voice was a monotone. He didn't care what he was selling. It was just another piece of land. But for me, it was everything. After I bought the road, I would sometimes go for a walk at night. I would walk down the middle of the street, right down the yellow line. It felt different under my feet. It was the same asphalt, the same cracks. But now it was mine. I felt a connection to my grandfather. I knew he would be proud of me for not giving up. The day before the big HOA meeting, I saw Brenda and Greg talking by the community mailboxes. They were laughing about something. They looked so confident. They had no idea what was coming. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. During the meeting, when everything fell apart for Brenda, I saw the exact moment she realized she had lost. It wasn't when the officer spoke. It was a second later. Her shoulders slumped. Her head dropped just a little. The proud, powerful HOA president was gone. In her place was just a woman who had been caught in a lie. After the HOA was gone, the neighborhood changed in small ways. People started painting their mailboxes different colors. One family put up a bird feeder that was shaped like a little house. Another family planted a garden with bright red flowers. The neighborhood started to look less perfect and more lived in. It started to look like a place where real people lived, not a picture from a magazine. I still have my notebook, the one where I wrote down all the bad things that happened. I don't look at it much anymore, but I keep it. It's a reminder of what can happen when people have too much power. It's a reminder that you always have to stand up for what is right. My grandfather's bench by the lake is my favorite place. I sanded it down and put a fresh coat of stain on it. I wanted to make it look nice again. I sit there and I think about him. I think about the lessons he taught me. Not just about land and property lines, but about life. About being honest. About working hard. About standing up for yourself. I also think about the future. Maybe one day I'll have a family. I'll bring my kids here. I'll show them the cabin and the lake. I'll tell them the story of their great-grandfather. And I'll tell them the story of the time I bought a street. I'll teach them the same lesson my grandfather taught me. Always know where your land is. And never let anyone tell you it's not yours. The road is quiet now. The new asphalt is smooth and black. The new streetlights cast a warm, friendly glow. Kids play in their yards. People walk their dogs. The sign at the entrance is simple and clear. It doesn't threaten anyone. It just states a fact that set us all free. This wasn't just my victory. It was a victory for everyone in the neighborhood. They just didn't know they needed it. They were living under a shadow, and they didn't even know it. Now the shadow is gone. The sun shines on all of us equally. So that's my story. A story about a house, a road, and a piece of paper. It might seem like a small thing, but sometimes the smallest things can be the most important. Sometimes standing up for a small piece of land means you are standing up for yourself. And that is always worth doing. Thank you for listening to my story. If you believe in standing up for what is right, please support our channel by liking this video for wins of thought. And don't forget to share your own stories down in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up to a bully? What was that like? Your experiences matter. Let's learn from each other.